viewers, welcome to the first episode of To Be an ITD. I'm Dr. Abbas Naqvi, and with me today is Dr. Joshua Shieh of Academy of International Dental Education. I hope I said that right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joshua, for joining us today. And today the subject of our topic, as the name suggests, is about ITDs and the life that they or we face once we land in Canada. So, first of all, we'd like to hear a bit about yourself, your background, your education, and your early experience in Canada.
Yeah, so I'm a third generation dentist. My grandfather was one of the earliest dentists to be practicing in Madras, and my father comes from the Anamla University, which was probably one of India's best, or probably the pioneer education systems in India for dentistry. And I graduated in the year 2006. I finished my master's in 2012, moved to Canada in 2013, finished the exams for about 1 year in 2014, and here I am, 15, practicing.
Excellent. I think that's an exemplary situation. I think not everyone is so lucky. So you've moved on to you went on not only to pass the exams but establish a training center. How did that come about? And now that you're in position of giving, what is the situation on the other side that you most frequently come across?
I would like to begin saying that I was probably blessed by some of the best teachers when I was studying my dentistry. And one of the best things that we probably observed as students was that our teachers would give completely 100% from what they had from within. So I think it's only right for us as students to probably continue what they have done for us, that they have dedicated themselves to educating us that our living might be brighter. In terms of the exams for the Canadian boards, we realized that there was a vacuum in the entire system, and that
Let me just interrupt you and add that considering that there was 4 to 5 institutes, popular institutes already in place when you brought in yours, so in that context.
Well, I haven't met all the 4 or 5 institutes and the instructors that are present at the moment, but I did have the opportunity to study under one of those premier institutes, and apparently it was a good place for me to start with. The instructor was amazing. He gave us the information that we needed for the exams, and I think that was the most important part as ITDs. So, coming back to your question, the reason why I would start one of the same processes, or rather want to help others, is because one, my wife and I love teaching. So we realized that apart from just teaching, we'd love to also help people in that process. And then we always see that there are a lot of candidates who move from different parts of the world who are sometimes challenged by certain situations or scenarios that they find difficult. So both my wife and I decided that we would definitely fit into that profile of helping those doctors in that process.
Coming to the second part of my question, which was that now that you're in this position where you're attending to meeting, seeing, interacting with more of what you were a couple of years back, what are the most common situations, most common problems that you come across that are faced by the ITDs?
So the challenges that most of the candidates face during the exam process is that one, they're not properly informed. So which means they have not either one, they've not researched adequately. 2, they don't have the right resources to use in terms of using it for the exams. Or 3, they don't have the right direction in terms of studying. So this could probably be one of the challenges an ITD would face in the process of studying for the exams.
So where does AIDE or Dr. Joshua Shieh come in terms of, in terms of the other institutes not being able to help them? Is there a specific area? Is there a specific style that you follow?
Okay. I'm sure all the institutes right now in Canada are giving the right information available, or everything that is needed for the students. Probably I would say that I had the blessing to have met a lot of different people. I'm talking about the generation who took up the exams before the NDEB was introduced. And we took a lot of feedback from those doctors, from those candidates who have passed, for those who have not successfully passed. And we figured out that probably accumulation of data, information, the advantages, disadvantages of certain ways of studying or preparing for the exams is what is the most important. So then we realized that we had some good teachers who gave us the thought process of helping to analyze stuff. So we put everything together and we analyzed and we realized that there is also a simpler way to achieving that same goal. And that's where we came in to help those doctors.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing is, correct me if I'm wrong, that you said that there are simpler ways to do this.
Yes.
So is the complication of this process a perception, or has it been created to be that way?
Okay, so let me make it simple. Okay, so here's the thing. So when the exam started, there was probably about, let's say, in terms of numbers, okay? Let's say 1,000 doctors appear for the exam. Now, out of 1,000 doctors, I'm sure there's only less than 10% who actually had an idea that the exam process was what it is. And the remaining doctors, or the remaining percentage, attempted it thinking they were ready. Okay, now most of the doctors who move in from different parts of the world always assume that it's just another exam. Unfortunately not. The North American board exams are, I would say, one of the most challenging exams the dental boards all over the world would offer you. And as a foreign trained dentist, it's important that you understand the system that the country offers you, and you must also be aware of what is the basic requirements that the Canadian Dental Board is asking for you to prepare accordingly.
So from your experience, your knowledge of having prepared for these exams, having written these exams, having mastered these exams, and having taught people on how to successfully complete this process, what are the key highlights that someone moving into this system should be aware of? And what are the general tips that you would give for them to counter those situations? From an approach point of view, what approach should they take, and what are the things they should be aware of?
So I would say the prime or the most important factor for any candidate taking up the Canadian exams, or for someone who's moving out from a different country and would like to pursue their career in Canada, would be focus. So if the candidate could have a 100% focus, something where they know that if they were to target a bullseye and they were to work towards it, and that they would not stop until they achieve what they are focused towards, that by itself is 80% of the fight. 10% of the preparation would be in terms of working together as a team. For example, I had some of the best friends and colleagues whom I worked with, and it was a relationship that we built in a matter of a year's time. People from different parts of the world, different cultures, different languages. We worked together as a team, taking inputs from different study groups, from different personalities, or from different instructors, as you would say. And we would share ideas, put them together, level them down, put statistics together, and bring about the easiest way to achieving the goal.
Speaking of statistics, how do you think that how do you think has this system or exam evolved over the years? Because it's been nearly 5 years that it's been in place. And what do you think is the role of the bell curve system in grading and evaluating?
I think the Canadian board probably has a very, how would I put it? It's a very consistent bell curve, I would like to say, because the pass percentage or the number of candidates who successfully get out of the exams has been the same ever since it was introduced in the year 2011. But what we see for the past 2 years, since I've been here only for 2 years, is that the exams are getting more challenging. The question patterns have changed slightly. The approach towards evaluating the clinical exams are definitely of higher standards when compared to earlier. And we see that the candidates who land or who start for the process of studying expect things to be done immediately. They don't understand that it takes a certain amount of time, a dedication of at least 1000 hours for each exam has to be input for you to get some kind of results.
So you said it's a very consistent bell curve. So do you think that a bell curve is a fair way to grade people? Like, for example, if I were to write an exam and have a certain score or grade, it's my performance. And if you don't perform well enough, or I don't perform well enough, it's neither of our problems, right? So should in principle, should the performance of someone else affect how you're graded?
Ideally, no, but I believe that's how the system works.
So what are your concluding tips for people who are already in the system? Someone is starting off, someone is halfway through, someone is well lucky enough to be at the end of it. But what would you you mentioned focus? Would you just expand on that slightly?
A 100% focus, 100% hard work, sincerity, dedication towards the entire exam process. So I would usually tell the candidates during the entire 6-month preparation for any examination, whether it's the AFK or whether it's the skills, I would ask them to cut them off from the entire social network in terms of family, in terms of friends, in terms of their leisure times, and spend at least 14 to 16 hours per day, 6 days a week for 6 months to prepare for the examinations.
So far, how has your performance in terms of your students' performances in the exams been?
So we've had about 3 batches who studied with us for the AFK, and every batch has an average of about 25 students. And I believe the first batch was about 18 students who passed, the second batch was about 15 students who passed, and the most recent was probably about 12 to 13, yes.
And with the other exams, skills?
For skills, we've had just about 1 batch who's taken the exams. That was in the year of, it was in June 2015. And we've had about 9 candidates who've taken the exam, of which 3 have passed.
And how's the appeal situation
going?
How does that work? Like, you had first-hand experience, which is why I asked.
Okay, so the appeal system is based on probably 2 things. One could be if the invigilators have missed out small evaluating points which could probably give a passing grade for the students were probably given a failing grade, which I would probably say because of certain demerits. Okay. In terms of appeals, we've seen a fairly successful share of appeals where we've appealed for approximately 10 candidates, and we see that we have about 6 candidates who have passed. So before I started my own training school, I did work at a different center, right? And most of the students that I worked with were from the other center. So now what happened was when these guys had failed the exams, I personally went with them for the appeals. And then we looked at the models, we wrote to the committee, and then we realized that for the first batch of 5 candidates, we had 4 candidates who passed.
Was it surprising?
Wasn't surprising. We expected them to pass. I was expecting all 5 to pass, but then one of the colleagues did not make it.
So, on a concluding note, beyond the scope of what we discussed, what would be your addition to the information that we just talked about?
I'm more of a religious guy, okay? When I say religious, I don't mean to say in specific terms, but I believe that if God has a plan for you, no matter what happens, no matter how bad or how difficult or how challenging the situation is, I think if he has a plan for you in Canada, you're here. That's point one. For point two, you have to be a person of your own mind. Okay? Where you do not get carried away, or you do not take opinions from people who have not successfully taken the exams. So I would probably say that if a person were to take up this exam, he or she should be extremely focused again. He should know what is it that he wants or she wants in terms of their career, and not take feedback from those who did not make it. So the question that you spoke about, the bell curve, usually the failure rate or the students who don't successfully pass is higher than those who have passed. So what happens is, when a candidate comes out from the exams, he would say, hey, you know what, the exams was extremely difficult. I think it's impossible to pass the exams. But then what happens again, or it becomes herd mentality. And when it becomes herd mentality, one individual who's not had an exposure to the exams, he or she would now start panicking with the fact that, hey, you know what, I've spoken to 5 people and 4 of them just told me it's not possible. So now he becomes another victim by saying, you know what, the exams are not possible, so let's not do it. So in short, I'm trying to say that if you were to take this exam, please come in with one mind and with one focus that you're going to pass these exams. Don't listen to people who say that they cannot do it. Just put your mind, put your heart, put your soul, put in your time.
One last question.
Yeah.
Are 3 attempts enough?
Okay, so I would look at it in 2 ways. 3 attempts are enough in one way, but 3 attempts are also not enough in the other way. So every country would have a governing body, right? And they have a certain demographic data that they need to balance out. And for the governing body to regulate the quality of dentists to be accepted in Canada, there should be a certain regulatory norm that is required. So from that perspective, I think 3 is more than enough. But let's say if I was a student, I would say 3 is not enough, because I want more time, I want more chances. I want the governing body to see that I am good enough if you're willing to give me the time, and I'm willing to improve. I'm willing to work hard to challenge your standards.
Thank you, Dr. Shieh. So my friends, that was Dr. Shieh of Academy of International Dental Education. His main message, his core message is to remain focused. Don't listen to naysayers, and you will do it. And for any further help or information, Dr. Joshua is known as one of the most helpful people around. So I'm speaking for you. You're more than welcome to give a shout out to him. And keep watching, and there will be more videos coming up your way. Thank you for your time to watch this one. Thank you. This is Abbas Naqvi signing out.